What's up, Canes fans? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Big news today. Nyjalik Kelly, the junior defensive end, has entered the transfer portal. We'll talk about the decision, the implications, what it all means, what's next. A lot to unpack. Plus, we'll talk about what could be the replacement, maybe the young replacement, Grady, top 50 player nationally, just got a crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong to the University of Miami. So we'll talk about him as well as a prospect and some portal options to replace Nyjalik Kelly. First, let's talk about some folks that aren't going anywhere. They're not portaling anywhere. And that is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. They're here to stay all over Florida. They are firmly rooted in the state with experience all over. Extreme litigation experience with accidents specifically. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Deal with the pros. Take back control of your life. 1-800-747-3733. 1-800-747-FREE. Okay, the big news again, Nyjalik Kelly. You saw the Hayes Fawcett tweet. He is gone. He's going to the transfer portal, already reaching out to several schools reaching out to him. This is not a surprise. Now, there's a sensitive subject when people are flirting with the portal. You don't want to draw too much attention to it because if you let out that someone's flirting with the portal, the sharks start circling. So you don't want to broadcast that, but I can confirm this is something that we've known about for a long time, not just us, others as well. It has been sort of an open secret that Nyjalik Kelly was considering entering the portal. We've done the podcast on Romello Height as a potential replacement. Didn't say for who, but this was part of the deal. Romello Height, defensive end out of USC, visited last week. 4 sacks last year. Nyjalik Kelly, 4 career sacks through his first 2 years at Miami. Now you kind of see how the pieces all fit together. We'll get to the future in a second. First on Kelly. This was a big-time recruit out of Dillard High School. Someone that Mario coveted when he was at Oregon. Mario came here, and Nyjalik Kelly was sort of the jewel of his transition class. He's someone that I remember seeing at the Under Armour camp, super talented in a very talented group of local defensive ends. Long guy, very athletic and productive at Dillard High School. Someone Miami had high hopes for. I think a couple things happened with Nyjalik Kelly where it just ended up not working for everybody. Number one, he came in very young at 17, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. In his case, was he ready? I'm not sure. Defensive line's a grown man position. Some people come in ready. I've heard that Armando Blunt, for example, is doing all the right things and is right on track. Hasn't practiced yet because of his injury. He just turned 17 on campus, so he was an early enrollee, reclassifying type kid that Miami has high expectations for. So you hope he goes down a different path. But with Kelly, I'm not sure he was ready for it. And physically, 3 major injuries, problematic shoulder, other things. That set him back a lot. Flash talent when he was playing. Had 4 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss, 19 tackles in his 2 years. But you expected more. And again, sometimes things just don't work out. There could be a talented player. There could be a program committed to developing that player. But when the injuries happen and other things happen, it just doesn't work out. And I think from Miami's standpoint, you don't want to just stand still, right? Miami is very focused on winning the ACC this season. So they're doing everything they can to win now. And this is almost professional, right? There's no salary cap, but there's only a limited amount of money. So, sometimes these things work out for the best in terms of guys moving on who are not necessarily in a position to contribute at the level that you hoped, and then replacements come in. Miami has 3 defensive ends over Nyjalik Kelly, or had 3 defensive ends over Nyjalik Kelly in spring. Nyjalik Kelly didn't. First of all, Nyjalik Kelly was injured during spring and did not practice at all. So those injuries we talked about, they continued through spring. Miami has Ruben Bain, unquestioned number 1. Akeem Mesidor, unquestioned number 2. Probably the best pair of defensive ends in the ACC. Elijah Alston, the transfer from Marshall. They see him as a double-digit sack guy. I believe he was Pro Football Focus's number 1 rated transfer in the portal from an edge rushing standpoint. Very productive, very explosive and athletic. Not quite as long as Kelly, but someone who is a pure pass rusher. So Kelly probably fit 4th in that equation. Plus you have young guys coming in. Cole McConaughey doing an awesome job at defensive end. The true freshman from Mobile, Alabama, bigger defensive end, and Marquise Lightfoot showing flashes, the 5-star from Chicago. So that's a pretty crowded room. You also have Jared Harrison Hunt getting snaps over there. You had Jaden Wayne, who played a lot last year. There's a lot of guys in that room that factor in. So I think that's what you're seeing here. It's a loss in terms of you wish Nyjalik Kelly would have developed to his potential here at Miami and been what everybody hoped he would be. Sometimes things just don't work out. That didn't happen. But as far as a loss on this year's football team, I think Miami is well positioned with the 3 guys that were ahead of him. And I think Miami's well positioned for that 4th spot with the guys that he was competing with and that will be brought in to ultimately replace his spot. Again, it's free agency. So when some guy leaves, more opportunities for others. It's just part of the game. It's almost like in the pros when somebody leaves and gets let's say a big contract elsewhere, opportunities for the guys you have and guys you can potentially bring in. So we know Romello Height, the defensive end from USC. We've done a podcast on him, 4 sacks last year, physically mature, good against the run, and also has pass rush ability. He's somebody who's a natural fit for that 4th spot. He visited this weekend. He's definitely in the mix. But Miami, from what I'm told, and I checked in with somebody today, they're exploring all options. They are working this spot very heavily. And again, Romello Height is one of the names that makes sense there, but not the only name. So they're working multiple options there. And at the end of the day, I expect Miami to have great defensive end production. When you have Ruben Bain, who was the freshman All-America, ACC Rookie of the Year, Akeem Mesidor, who was outstanding the last time he was healthy, which was 2 years ago. You feel good there. Elijah Alston, and you probably need one more veteran on top of the young guys you have who are flashing. So I'd expect Miami to get veteran help in the portal at defensive end, and they are exploring all options there. Recruiting also continues at defensive end, and we're going to talk about a very big crystal ball for the Miami Hurricanes. But first, everybody's waiting for that bat signal when it comes to the next recruit. Zion Grady, we're about to talk about. That'd be nice to get a bat signal for him. That image back there has a lot of positive correlations for Miami fans, pointing to the portrait behind me of the ibis that Dennis Smith likes to tweet out when Miami's about to get a commit, the bat signal. A lot of people have been asking me about this painting right here and where they can get their own. Reach out to my man Suave, one of the top cane artists around. He's at Cane City Cartel, one word, Cane City Cartel on Instagram. Also Open Slate Apparel. You can see his stuff on Printify. The link is going to be in our bio or in our description for YouTube. Also on the website. He's the man. You can see him on Twitter as well, Suave. He's going to take care of you with beautiful art like this and other great pieces that you can hang in your mantle, man. You don't need that impressionist, the Monet, whatever kind of art you want. Get something that really means something, which is this bat signal right here behind me. Check out my man Suave. Also, if you like this hat, I know the Marlins aren't doing too hot this year, but great Miami sports fan apparel, whether it's Marlins, Heat, Dolphins, and of course, Miami Hurricanes, Canes, where you know what it is. I'm going by there tomorrow to re-up for spring game and to buy some new stuff. They're the absolute best. Davie, Florida, Arrowhead Plaza if you wanted to visit the store, and also caneswear.com if you are out of the state. Let's talk about the future. Nyjalik Kelly didn't work out. That happens sometimes. You bring a lot of blue chippers, they don't work out. Let's talk about the next wave of blue chippers who hopefully can be the next Ruben Bain for the Miami Hurricanes. One name who's drawing a lot of buzz, Zion Grady out of Enterprise, Alabama. He is a top 50 player on the composite. One-time Alabama commit, since decommitted. Georgia's in the mix, Tennessee's in the mix, Auburn's in the mix, the usual suspects, Florida State in that part of the country. But Miami is firmly in it. He visited last weekend. He visited for Junior Day back in, I want to say, January. I made a post about Zion Grady on the bank back then in January because I was told to watch out for this name. And what they told me back then in January, and I believe bears out when you watch the film, is that this guy, top 50 player, so highly recruited, he may not look like your classic edge rusher. He's 6'3.5", 222. So he's got size. He's not tiny, but he's not Nyjalik Kelly, for example, from a frame standpoint. But what this guy has is what Ruben Bain had, what Cole McConaughey had before he started tearing up Green Tree, which is extreme production at the high school level. Enterprise, Alabama is a big school. Eric Winters, another top 50 player, linebacker who visited Miami last week, is from the same high school. So big-time players. And you watch the highlights, you see that defensive line's big. He doesn't stand out physically, but he stands out because he keeps getting sacks. 33 in the last couple of years. Just outstanding production as a pass rusher. And you look at the film. You see the first step. You see excellent hand usage. You see, again, explosiveness. He's blocking kicks and he's doing those things. He's the first one off the ball, but it's pass rush specific explosiveness. This guy's not returning kicks for touchdowns. He's not some kind of weird physical freak. He's just a pass rusher with first step quickness, explosive hands, explosive bursts off the line, change of direction. He can beat guys with inside moves. You see him mostly operating out of a 2-point stance. Sometimes he moves inside. They move him around to get him favorable matchups. And he just knows how to get to the quarterback. And when he gets to the quarterback, he's not stiff. Sometimes you see these guys that might be 6'5", run a 4.5 if they run right by the quarterback because they're straight line guys. This guy has some fluidity when he gets to the quarterback with the ability to bring the quarterback down. Also a basketball player, which you listen to the Canes Insight podcast, you know we absolutely love basketball players. I think Mario Cristobal and Dennis Smith share our enthusiasm for basketball players because we're recruiting a lot of them, particularly on the lines. Yesterday's commitment, Luka Gilbert. If you want to check out that instant reaction video when this bat signal went out, we did that on YouTube. You can check it out. Breaking down Luka Gilbert, the tight ends commitment, also a basketball player. Zion Grady, same thing. Basketball background, but really a very productive football player at a big-time school. So, again, Steve Wilfong, who is a very reliable prognosticator, projected Zion Grady to Miami after speaking with some of Zion Grady's people. I'm hearing optimism from our end. Again, I first heard that optimism back in January as far as this is a guy we are getting good feedback from and we like him. He's visited twice, has an OV set up. A lot to like about where Miami sits with Zion Grady. Jason Taylor doing an unbelievable job recruiting pass rushers last year. Marquise Lightfoot, Booker Pickett, Cole McConaughey, high-end talent, last year's defensive end class. This year, when you talk about, of course, Drew Vane the year before that. This year, you're in it for Zion Grady. You're in it for Yossi Epinesa from the St. Louis area, who was on campus last week. Multiple big-time defensive end targets, and Zion Grady, a top 50 player from the Deep South, would be an absolute monster get for the Miami Hurricanes. So if you want to talk about it, you want to break down his game further, go to the CanesInsight.com free forum, sign up, 6.8 million posts and counting. Chime in on what Grady's doing. We got a lot of big shows for you this week, some big interviews lined up with Canes Connection athletes. We'll be doing football school. We got a whole lot to come, including dealing with the breaking news that I'm sure is going to follow here because the portal's getting cooking. And the portal already is cooking with Miami with losing Nyjalik Kelly. It's going to be cooking the other way too. More guys are going to go out. More guys are going to go in. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Again, the CanesInsight.com forums, our transfer portal message board is cooking. So check that one out. And we will see you next week. Go Canes.